Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by Mike Buck, CEO at Petro Matad, AIM-listed Mongolian oil explorer and developer. Petro Matad made a big oil discovery in Block 20 late in 2019, and since then they've been working towards getting an exploitation license, which, according to today's announcement, seems likely to be awarded in Q2 of this year. Welcome, Mike. It really is great to have you back and to be talking to you.
Donald, thank you for having me. Very nice to be back.
Yes, and it seems as though it's good news. Let's start by asking you about the exploitation license for Block 20. So can you confirm it's likely to be granted in Q2? And then take us through the next steps, the all-important next steps, which will actually get you there.
Okay, well, I would say yes, it is likely to be awarded in Q2, and obviously we're pushing as hard as we can to make that happen as soon as possible. We've taken two important steps in the last few weeks. The first was getting the exploitation area agreed, so we know the piece of land we're going to be allowed to keep, and that's obviously all of the heron structure. It includes the gazelle structure, and it includes the area surrounding that it has the entire extension of the proven prolific basin that has 2 billion barrels in place in the PetroChina acreage to the north. So that's a big step. We have agreed that with the regulator. And we've also managed to advance our plan of development through the review by ministry auditors, and they have signed off. And we've just finished that same process with the regulator. So we're now ready to have the final formal meeting of the process by which Mongolia awards exploitation licenses, and that's the meeting of the Mineral Resource Professional Council to sign off on that plan of development. Then we will have all the pieces of paper we need to submit the formal application to the minister.
And what's likely to happen when you present your different permits and your licenses to the minister?
Well, in the process that Mongolia has, that is quite prescriptive. There are a number of things that you have to present, and it includes the protocols from these various meetings we've been going through. And once those are in hand, then we just submit all those, and we have been told that the minister will then turn them around. It doesn't require any higher approval than the ministry approval.
Very good. Let me take you to the process, which we've touched on there. The bureaucracy around the license application in Mongolia has been fairly process driven. It's been a bit of a delay. How much of that delay has been due to the process? How much to the difficulties which the COVID pandemic has no doubt thrown up?
Okay, well, obviously I don't want to be too critical of the process that the Mongolian government has in place, but this process to award an exploitation license has only been used 3 times in the past for a petroleum exploitation license, and it is rather cumbersome. We have pointed that out to the Mongolian government. They have been receptive to our suggestions, but the process currently is what they say it is, and therefore we will follow it. It has a number of steps in it, and we are effectively at the final step of the process now, I'm relieved to say. I would have liked this to have gone a lot faster. In fact, I originally had proposed that they didn't use the process at all, but the bureaucracy said, no, we will use our process, so fair enough, we will follow that process.
So yes. And what about COVID? Has COVID thrown a spanner in the works?
For most of 2020, I would say not. Mongolia had done a very, very good job of keeping the pandemic under control as regards its impact on Mongolia. But then in November of 2020, they started to have cases in community. And so we have had several lockdowns over the last few months. Initially, those did impact the speed with which meetings were held and discussions could take place. But now the regulator and the ministry seem to be handling it pretty well. The last time we had the professional council meet was a virtual meeting during a lockdown. And a lockdown is due to start in Ulaanbaatar, the capital, or actually has started in Ulaanbaatar, and will last for the next couple of weeks. But we expect that the meeting we need will take place virtually. So yes, COVID has had some impact. It has had impact on companies trying to do work in Mongolia at the moment. So if we were in the position to do work at the moment, it would be difficult. but we need to get our exploitation license in hand, and then we'll review the situation that faces us at that point.
It's probably worth a quick reminder, worth reminding people what you found at Heron 1 and what sort of near-field opportunities exist in Block 20. This is the more fun part of the story.
Yes, well, we did drill the Heron number 1 well, completed it and tested it in October 2019. We've had a competent persons report done that suggests that we have, between our estimate of 163 million barrels in place and their estimate of about 194 million barrels in place. So a very nice in-place reserve and resource there. Obviously, potentially highly commercial for us. And as I said, the surrounding area that we've captured, or we will capture within our exploitation license when it is awarded, will allow us to appraise and hopefully develop the Gazelle discovery that we also made in 2019. And this basin that extends to the south from the PetroChina area, we have already identified on 3D seismic and 2D seismic that we have. We've identified a number of prospects and leads that if exploration drilling is occurring in parallel with our Heron development, which is very much our plan, then that could increase the amount of reserve contained within our exploitation license, and it could all be developed together. So yes, a very interesting and exciting discovery in itself at Heron, good potential, only 5 kilometers away in Gazelle, and then all of this upside that we will secure within the exploitation area.
Oh, that was a great summary, Mike. Thank you so much. What happens once the license is granted? Give us a sense of the workflow, the thinking, and the costs behind those plans.
Okay, well, obviously it's been quite a long time coming, so we've had quite a lot of time to do a lot of operational planning, and we have been out to various suppliers to procure the equipment we would want to be able to get wells on stream as quickly as possible. If we do get the exploitation license within Q2, which is our hope, I would like to still be able to do work during 2021. But obviously the current situation with COVID restrictions in the country mean that may be difficult. However, if we can't get work in field done in 2021, then we will move very quickly to make sure at the start of the drilling season of 2022, we are there and ready to move. So our preparations for operations continue. As soon as we've got the formal license in hand, then we will step up our discussion with a number of companies on the potential to partner with us, not only for the development, but also for upside exploration in Block 20 and elsewhere in Mongolia. So these are all things that we are fully prepared for and raring to go.
Okay, which takes us neatly to PetroChina, who, as I understand it, are drilling just over the block boundary. Are you thinking of working with them, perhaps?
We would very much like to. We did use their rig to drill Heron 1 and Gazelle 1 in 2019. They offered a very, very good service, and it was by far, to our knowledge anyway, the best rig operating in Mongolia at that time. And we have told PetroChina we would like to continue that. In fact, we still have a valid contract for the use of that rig. We've also talked to PetroChina over the many months about using their potentially using their services, not only for drilling, but also for testing and also for oil field operations, because they have a very well-run operation that's been going for the last 15 to 20 years. So from that point of view, we see a lot of benefit of cooperating with them. And in the discussions we've had so far, they have been quite willing to cooperate in that fashion. Once we've got our license in hand and we can talk to them about exactly what our plans look like, then we will obviously take up that conversation again.
Okay, you've resolved the near-term funding issue quite elegantly by getting a line of credit from Petrovis, Petrovis being your largest shareholder and major player in the Mongolian petroleum industry. Give us more detail around this.
Yes, well, as we'd announced back in 2020, looking at an exploitation license process that was going to take several months, as we thought at that time, we had decided on some cash conservation to eke out our cash in the bank to make sure it would last long enough to get our license. And that was going to last us through until the middle of 2021. obviously that time is now approaching. The board has taken steps to make sure that in the event that there were more delays, or once we get the exploitation license and we have still got some time before operations need to start, and we want to look at partnering or our funding options, the board took the steps to try and put in place funding for the short term that would not dilute shareholders and that would not require great warranties on the company's assets. So we secured from Petrovis an unsecured line of credit of up to $1.5 million to be drawn as and when we need it. And we will pay an interest to Petrovis, which is effectively the equivalent of the interest they pay for the money they borrow from the bank when they're borrowing US dollars. And that would allow us to continue working at our current level of staffing and at our current level of actual work program through until the latter part of 2022. But obviously having that funding there, as our own resources are reduced, given the length of time it's taken to get the exploitation license, is a very good backup to have. And we're very happy that Petrovis was willing to do that for us. Obviously, we want to draw down on that as little as possible. Repayment will come out of potentially farm out proceeds, or it will come out of production revenue, but no sooner than 2023. We're hoping to be on production in 2022, but we don't have to repay any of the loan until 2023. Or it could be rolled into Petrovis's contribution to a future equity raise if we have one of those.
Okay, my final question to you today, Mike. What kind of news flow can we expect over the next few months? What are the major milestone announcements we should be looking out for?
Well, I'm hoping to be able to announce as soon as possible the award of the exploitation license, not just that we've taken one more step in the direction or two more steps in the direction. We have that one more formal meeting to go, and then we can submit the formal application. So obviously that will be a very important piece of news flow to say, right, that is what we've got. This is the area we've got. And then we will be announcing our plans for Block 20, our ideas of what we plan to do in Block 5, our exploration area in the west of Mongolia. And we're also looking at least one new area that we are chasing in Mongolia right now. And so we would be looking to talk about that from a technical point of view. We will obviously need to put in place funding for phase 1 of the development. The good news here is that wells are relatively cheap, particularly if we're able to capitalize on our neighbor PetroChina, who does such cost-effective and efficient work. So we will be able to get the field on stream for a relatively small amount of money. And once we've secured our exploitation license, we would look to make those plans and set out a time frame and put those in front of people so that they can see what is coming and when.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Mike. That's a fantastic update. If you're an MATD investor, don't forget, London South East have a very active bulletin board. You can follow London South East on Twitter at London South East, and also by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Meanwhile, please do stay safe, whether you're in the UK or in Mongolia. Thank you.